Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our Alumni in Action live webinar. My name is Patricia Alvarez, Program Sales Manager for Executive Education here at SAI Business School, University of Oxford, and I am delighted to be your host. Today, we'll explore the impact of our flagship Oxford Advanced Management and Leadership program and how it continues to shape the way our alumni lead and make strategic decisions. As we look at the impact of OAMLP, it's worth noting that the program consistently receives 5-star participant feedback and is ranked number 2 globally for the quality of its participants. This reflects both the caliber of the leaders who join us and the high standards we hold for the experience we deliver. In a moment, I'll hand over to Professor Athol Williams, who will introduce our exceptional panel of OAMLP alumni. They'll be sharing their experiences and insights live with us. After the panel, we'll open the floor to your questions in a Q&A session, and I'll return at the end with a few closing notes and next steps. Now, feel free to pop your name and location into the chat. We would love to see where you're joining us from. Before we begin, just a few quick suggestions to help you get the most of this next hour. Participate by submitting your questions via the Q&A function at any time. We have a team behind the scenes help answering all the questions live, and we will also pop some questions on the webinar in the Q&A later. Reflect as Athol and the panelists speak, thinking about how the ideas relate to your own leadership style and experiences. And most importantly, apply. Try to take away at least one practical insight you can put into action straight away. And now I'm very pleased to introduce Professor Athol Williams, Academic Director of the Oxford Advanced Management and Leadership Program. Athol guides the design and delivery of the program and ensures it maintains the highest academic standards. Before joining Oxford, he has spent many years in senior strategy and consulting roles internationally. His work spans leadership, ethics, and complex decision-making, and he brings a rare combination of global business experience and deep academic insight. We're thrilled to have Athol with us today to share his perspective on leadership in action and to lead our alumni panel. Over to you now, Athol.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Really wonderful to be here. Before we proceed, I do want to introduce two colleagues who I work with in delivering the program. So firstly, Dr. Louise Watts, who is the program director for the blended version of OAMLP, which we are launching. Louise, welcome.
Thank you so much, Athol. It's so wonderful to be here and to be meeting so many people on this webinar. Just to say, my name is Louise Watts, although I think I'm showing up as another version of Athol, but I can't live up to your shoes, Athol. So thank you for introducing me.
Thanks, Louise. You're not my alter ego, yes. The second colleague I want to introduce is Dr. Sally Bonewell, who is the program director for the residential immersive program. Welcome, Sally.
Great. Thank you, Athol. It's a privilege to be here. I've taken over as program director for the first time in October last year. A fabulous, very, very great privilege to work with Athol and the rest of the team on this program, and great to see some alumni on the panel from that program here today. And I will be program director for the next few iterations, next year and a half. So really, really looking forward to that, and great to meet other people from other cohorts.
Thank you, Sally. So both Sally and Louise will be available towards the end of the webinar if there are specific questions about the two iterations or the two formats, that we have for the program. So Sally and Louise will pick that up. It's also, you've now seen the faces of the people you will encounter when you do come and join us in the program. Before I introduce our panelists, on the slide you can see in front of you that just has our names there, so you know who we are. And I think, Patricia, there was another side to this. That's right. Let me quickly introduce and just mention this new format which we are launching from April of this year. So we've got the usual residential program, which happens in June and October. But from this year, we'll run this blended program where there's a week in Oxford, followed by 14 weeks of live online sessions, and then in July, another week in Oxford. And the 3-week program is amazing in that it fully immerses all participants for that continuous 3-week period as you learn from each other. And so the learning is integrative, it is additive. And so being immersed for full 3 weeks has amazing value. But similarly, the blended program has the benefit of perhaps over the 14 weeks where you're back at the office to reflect more on the learning and begin to apply it more directly, real time, I guess, in your organizations before you come back again for another week of immersive engagement. So the two programs are exactly the same. You'd have the same content, the same procedure by and large, although accepting that there are nuances in terms of the delivery of the two formats. So whichever format works for you, you will get the same experience. Okay. Perhaps just before I introduce the panel more directly, just a few comments on the OAMLP and what we try to do on the program. So just broadly, you could look at leadership as about getting things done with and through others, right? And that's our role as leaders, is getting things done, working with others and through others. But we know that leaders are required to do this in an increasingly complex environment, both within our organizations and externally. So this program is designed to equip you to lead successfully in this complex world, but also to equip you to begin thinking about how you and your organization might minimize the complexity, right? In many ways, we often think we are responding to the world as it is, forgetting how we and our organizations can actually also influence the external environment. And so that's part of how we think about the role leaders ought to play. So the program is designed for senior leaders who are serious about personal and professional success and serious about organizational impact they can have. It is designed to support you in your self-development and to strengthen your practice in leading others by importantly combining both the experience of learning from each other with cutting-edge ideas. So you'll come to Oxford, you will get exposed to cutting-edge research, to pioneering ideas from our world-class faculty. That is, after all, part of why you come to Oxford. And just the last point is the program is highly interactive. You will learn more from each other than from the faculty, and the relationships you will build with your cohort, in many cases, will last you the rest of your career. Really powerful way of learning and engaging with others is core to what the program is about. Okay, good. Well, that's enough from me. Let me introduce our incredible panel, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves, perhaps in the order on that slide that's up. Tarina.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege for me to greet you from almost the southernmost tip of Africa, in South Africa, in Stellenbosch. I'm sitting here looking at oak trees and sunshine, and I'm sure I've got some jealous colleagues in the northern part of the globe on that. My role is in Stellenbosch University. I work for the university as part of the senior leadership team. So I have to plan on strategy and sustainability of the university together with my senior leaders, but also on the operational side, I'm responsible for everything that's around research and innovation, like contracts and grants and ethics and capacity development, and all kinds of interesting things, protection of intellectual property, etc. So that's my day-to-day role. Really a pleasure to be
Fantastic.
here. Thanks.
Thanks, Serena. Really wonderful to have you a part of this discussion. Joseph, how about you?
Hi, I'm Joseph Bruckschlögel, calling in from Austria, quite the opposite of Cape Town these days, so snowy and cold. I'm chief executive of Quark Telecom. We are a boutique telecom firm in Cyprus, primarily focusing on payment services and more virtual environments. And I'm holding a professorship at United Applied Science in St. Pölten, where I'm also the chairman of the Endowment Association. And I have joined the Advanced Management Program in the June 2014, so it's almost 16 years that I did it. And I'm happy to join the panel today, sharing my experience and how I benefited out of the program. And it's a pleasure and privilege to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joseph. Really great to have you with us. And then our a member from our most recent cohort, Nebahat.
Thank you, Athol and Sally. Great to be with all of you. Dialing in, as I said, or I wrote it, I think, in the chat from Finland. It's getting warmer here. It's only -9 degrees, but very sunny, lovely weather. I was living in the Netherlands before moving here, so I'm Dutch. But as my name gives away to some of you, probably, I was born in Turkey, only 2 years old when the family moved to the Netherlands. We moved to Finland 4 years ago, actually, for this job. I work for Fortum in the executive leadership team, responsible for quite a broad portfolio of sustainability, safety, security, public affairs, communications, brand management, but really a very interesting time to be in the energy sector, especially in Europe and especially in Finland, as you can imagine. These days, energy security is top of my mind. That was also the challenge that I brought to Oxford. And benefited a lot from my peer coaching and the lecturers and the directors. So we'll get to all of that. But so Fortum is an energy producing company. We also do heating and cooling and sales, and with an asset base that's quite diverse, with nuclear, hydropower, and renewables. So that's about me.
Fantastic, Nebat. Really wonderful having you here. I love the diversity of our group in terms of when you came onto the program, but also the sector in. So we got education, telecoms, and energy. So we'll get those different perspectives. Some large organizations, some smaller organizations. Well, let's get to the first question, and we've made it very easy for me by putting the questions on the slide. So I think a question that'll be in everyone's minds is, why did you choose to take time out of work? And for all three of you, 3 weeks full time from your jobs to come and do this program. And perhaps, Joseph, let's start with you. If you can think as far back as 14 years, why you chose to do this.
Absolutely. I became CEO of Quark Telecom in the beginning of my 30s, and I have to confess I was quite surprised with the exposure of the role. I had senior leadership roles before, but being the CEO of a firm felt different. So I was sort of researching where can I train myself, where can I become fitting in the shoes that I should fit in. And so I did the classical research, so the Harvard things and the Oxford things and Fontainebleau. And what at the end of the day made me decide going to Oxford was, on the one hand, I really appreciated the format of 3 weeks, highly dense, with a very dense curriculum, spanning a lot of fields. And what was the convincing element for me at the end of the day, I visited Oxford before applying and met with Professor Lalit Chori, back then the program director. And on the one hand, the feeling I got in eGrowth Park, which was very special, and also the feedback I received from faculty and the approachability of the whole thing made me decide going to the Advanced Management and Leadership program in Oxford. And as I mentioned before, I did it back in 2014, so it's 12 years now. And I have to say, I think it was a good decision.
And we'll hear more about that, Joseph, but it certainly sounds like you looked at it as a way to prepare for this role of new CEO that you were stepping into?
Oh, yes. When I became CEO back then, the feeling of everybody wants me to be the smartest guy in the room was sort of overwhelming. So having a chance to interact with peers where either you don't have to prove yourself on the one hand, and on the other hand, you get the feedback, not just from the faculty, but also from your classmates and from your cohort, how they deal with the sleepless nights and how they deal with certain leadership programs. So for me, one important learning experience was that all of us are just cooking with water, and understanding this took a lot of pressure from my shoulders and made me a better leader that back then.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that. Tarina, how about you? What made you choose OAMLP?
Yeah, so coming from the university sector, I guess I was looking for a very inspirational and intellectually stimulating experience. Now, I looked also at all the places that Joseph mentioned, but quite contrary to Joseph, I was appointed to this position already in 2008, and I only did my first course in management and leadership in 2024. So I was learning by trial and error all these years and always wondering, am I doing the right thing? So I looked at the courses, and I guess there was a very strong sense. I had a very strong sense of I want to do something that will help me to be a leader that will leave the world a better place, that will help the world to be a better place. And the reflection and the deconstructing of one's past ideas of leadership and the reconstructing of the playbook and everything that was offered in the brochure really, really attracted me. So I guess for me, that was a very easy choice eventually to say to my line manager, this is the course I want to do, and these are the reasons why. There is a very explicit focus also on social impact and leadership for social impact. And then, of course, being in a university, I was fairly familiar with the Oxford brand. I mean, I didn't think it was a bad idea at all to be associated with the Oxford brand and have that qualification to put on my CV. So the practical considerations were there too. The residential experience was amazing. And yeah, I guess getting to spend that time in Oxford was really something that was very special.
Yeah, fantastic. I just described the program as focused on those who are serious about personal success, organizational impact, and also broader social impact. And you picked up on that. Perhaps just say a bit more about why that was important to you and how you thought the program addressed that, perhaps?
For me, it's important because of my context. And anybody that's familiar with the South African history and the current context will understand that society around us, the inequalities is in our face every day. I know that as a leader in an organization that's one which people see as a beacon of hope for getting education, for making their lives better, it's very important that I have a strong awareness of my potential impact as a leader in this organization on society at large. I mean, we deal with students that join university for the first time coming from a township where they have no house to live in. This is the kind of society that we have in South Africa, and those inequalities are really in your face. And I want to leave the world a better place as a leader.
Yeah. And often we pay lip service to that idea, but I think for many leaders, it's real, and we look for guidance and tools and ways of thinking about how to do that. So thanks for sharing that, Tarina. Nebat, how about you?
Well, a couple of reasons. One is whenever I change jobs, no matter how senior the role that I'm being asked to look at, I start negotiating a package, I always negotiate in that package a budget for development. So the money was there. But then, of course, I mean, my company was very heavily impacted by the war in Ukraine. And we were really distracted, crisis management, existential, multiple crises at hand. So there wasn't any time in the first years that I joined. And then when we came out of that, saved the company, financially healthy, I thought, okay, now's the time. So that was a very practical reason. Then I started looking for programs, right? Because before joining Fortum, I worked for Shell. Shell has a lot of in-house strategic leadership programs, really state of the art, with access to lecturers and faculties, etc. So I was looking for I know these programs, I've done the theory of leadership, what can add value? And I was really looking for a program that is more about leadership in today's reality. Today's macroeconomics, geopolitics, but also digital transformation, AI, etc. How is that shaping leadership in a different way? So I want to learn what it is that I don't know. Yeah. And that made me land on this one. At least what I read and in the interview, etc. When applying, I got really confident that there would be that applied leadership angle within today's reality. And then and also I went for residential. So that was also a differentiator with Expert at that time. I know you now have the hybrid version, but because I know myself, I know I can get easily distracted and not do the homework and the virtual settings. So I didn't want life to get in the way, and I thought I need to immerse myself, really immerse and go on site.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Patricia, let's move on to the next question. I'm going to begin ignoring the questions that I wrote for myself because the conversation's taking such an interesting turn. I want to sort of ask this question, but and perhaps start with Trina on this one. There's Neba had to said something. There's a lot of theory on leadership, right? And so you could go and get the book. There are tons of books on leadership, tons of YouTube videos. Why not just go and do that? Why take 3 weeks out? And so what was unique about being at Oxford in this environment with these people?
I guess you said it before. I think I had 47 lecturers plus the Oxford lecturers. The interaction in the group was absolutely incredible. The way that we were allowed to learn about each other's stories, to create our own safe container for conversations is really something practical that I could bring back to my own organization and apply. So I really valued that beyond I enjoyed all of the theory and I enjoyed all of the content. There was some fantastic content. But what I really took away from that is that safe space that one can create between people who knew each other from absolutely nowhere. There was I didn't know a single person. I was the only South African on the course. And I didn't know anybody. And 3 days into the program, I knew everybody's name out of the almost 50 people there. And I knew their stories. I knew where they came from. I knew their industry, or at least I knew where they came from, which industries. And the richness of that experience was just absolutely incredible. The simple concepts that we learned, like the balcony and the downs, participating and then going to the balcony and reflecting, the power of doubt. I always thought being doubtful is something bad, but the power of doubt was a revelation to me. There are these things that I could really bring back and apply. There are 3 words that stayed with me that I heard somewhere in a lecture, and that is a leader should challenge, reassure, and inspire. And I've been doing those 3 things. I always think, okay, what am I doing now? What should I do now? It's either challenge or reassure or inspire. And so, I've got those simple concepts meant a lot to me.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Trina. Joseph, how about you? It's been more than a decade since you were on the program.
The memories are still quite vibrant, and I just can jump in on what Serena just said in terms of, it's a very unnatural situation you're exposed to in terms of 3 weeks with 35 other alpha personalities spending day and night being at these little rooms in Egrove, having breakfast together, lunch together, dinner together. So it's a really dense experience, and normally you don't have it as an adult. It's almost like camp during vacations in childhood, just with senior leaders, senior civil servants, and so on. And who all have a connecting element in terms of purpose and in terms of personal needs. So just the environment, which creates an enormous high level on camaraderie, if you want to say so.
Yeah.
It is on the one hand surprising, because I didn't expect it to be that powerful. On the other hand, it forges really relationships which sustain. So especially now looking back at a rather long period of time, 12 years, and the relations are not diminishing. So within this dense period of time, discussing a lot of things on eye level, spending the time with faculty and your personal stories. And I don't know about the exact format, how it's done today, but we had evening sessions where people could share their experience and their personal issues. And so it became an environment where each and everyone is really supportive to each other. And due to my experience, I can say these are long-lasting relations where I don't hesitate today taking my phone, calling a friend in Kuala Lumpur and ask for a contact if it's needed. So from that point of view, this is added value besides the world-class faculty, I think, which is hard to compare.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, never had. You've only been. It's been a few months only. Tell us about your experience of interacting with this group of people we've thrown you in with.
Yeah, so first I can echo what Verena and Joseph said here about the trust, the safe environment, etc. To me, it feels like, I'm thinking back on my friendships, over 30, 40 years, people I've known for such a long time. And I think with some of the people that I've met in Oxford, I have a much deeper relationship than with some of my friends over a very, very long time. And also this daring to be vulnerable and showing yourself truly who you are. And that is, I have to say, that doesn't start on day one. Yeah, so it's something, of course, everybody comes there thinking, who are these people? Who am I going to trust? Am I going to show myself? Maybe not. Yeah, so expect that journey, which is, I think, very normal. And also expect that you may not have the same level of bonding with everyone. Yeah, so you will see that there's going to be people that you sort of are drawn to, and or maybe even groups, etc., with whom you have a more level of intimacy and sharing them with others. But keep an open mind. And I think that the biggest surprise to me was also with some of the people that I felt the deepest bond with at the end of were not the ones that I thought I would have that with at the beginning. So
that's interesting.
This open mindset and really being curious I think was a very critical part of also taking most out of it.
Yeah.
The other thing, we spoke about the location. So I was in Egrove Park, and initially, and I think you guys, Athol and Sally, you did a lot, almost like expectation management. Like, you're not going to be in Oxford city centre, you're not going to be in one of the colleges in the beautiful buildings. We're going to be out of the city. And I think I was one of those who thought, like, oh, really? It's a bit of a disappointment. But then, being there at a location where indeed you share all the meals, but you're together all the time without the distractions of the city, etc., was an additional bonus. Yeah. Which you also start feeling, at least I started feeling that somewhere during week 2, that I said, I would never trade this. Yeah, I know you're going to change location, etc. So I hope you can keep this in the feeling
of element.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I completely agree. And we obviously designed the program with this in mind, and the hope is that the magic you three describe happens. There's some science to it, but it's also what you make of it. Mm-hmm. And so, as you say, you sort of arrive not knowing who these other strangers are around you, but I think that's the people who arrive with an open mind. Saying, I'm going to be courageous to learn. I'm going to make myself vulnerable. I'm going to, we had someone on the program recently who said he's committed to going to every session, no matter what it is or what they're discussing, right? He's not missing the mindfulness in the morning. He's not missing the fireside chats in the evenings. He's going to everything. He wants to just take everything from it. And so, like any other learning and working environment, it's the attitude you bring to the process also contributes quite significantly. Um, Patricia, how about we go to the next slide and see what let's skip this one. I think we've talked a bit about that.
Well, Athol, maybe on that one, also
Go for
tying
it.
to what you just said and how you reflected on what we said. One element also where actual magic happens on top of all the other magic are the peer coaching sessions, the peer sessions, where at the end of our cohort, I think without exception, all the peer groups said we had the best peer group. It was just simply
Yeah.
we had the best, outcomes, openness, safety. And there is the diversity in the group, diverse businesses, backgrounds, diverse cultural backgrounds from all over the world. If you get that dynamic right and you truly listen to each other, there's so much experience just around the table. You put a challenge in the middle, and there are these like big brains, whose only like aim is to help you solve yours, and that peer relationship and that peer group setup worked really well as part of I guess the lectures in the morning, the peer group workshops in the afternoon, and then the real life leaders taken from practice. I think the whole combination of elements just also worked, and with the peer coaching in the middle, for me, a really valuable one.
Yeah. Thanks, Deborah. Joseph, a lot of people are skeptical of diversity, and more recently, more so. Perhaps just your reflections on diversity in terms of all aspects of diversity, geographical, industry, gender, age, from your experience.
I don't think that a lot of your target group is afraid of diversity. So I guess look, on the one hand, I experienced, of course, diversity in Oxford due to the diversity of the group. So we had members from Kuala Lumpur to Lagos to Sydney to London and so on. And I guess I was quite inspired by that because at the end of the day, I left Oxford with the aim to build as a diverse team as possible with Quark. So we're approximately 30 people coming from 25 different nations. And why did we do this? Because we are serving 108 countries, and we want to understand the culture, the mother tongue, the boundaries, the possibilities, and the chances. So to be able to succeed in an international market, I think diversity is not a question, but a must. And anything which is counter-arguing this with a backward view, I think, is torpedoing corporate and social success. In terms of, I think these are discussions that will lead to nowhere, because any corporate leader with some experience just knows that diversity is a given. It's an added value. And so in terms of gender, color, origins, I think I wouldn't underestimate age these days. I think we should have a focus on age diversity as well. But I consider it as one of the main drivers for a successful international cooperation, to understand the benefits out of it and to live it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joseph. Tarina, I'm keen to perhaps if we go to the next slide, Patricia, just to begin to think a bit about how the program did benefit you in your job and what you took back there, and how it's worked. Do you have one or two examples of things where you can say, I learned that or got exposed to it at Oxford, and this is how I'm seeing it working back at the office?
Yes, so it was very interesting times. I mean, I don't think anybody could have predicted in autumn 2024 where we would be in 2025 in the globe, in my university, where there were big funding losses, US federal funding losses, a lot of diplomatic spats with other countries, and really a kind of volatile, confusing world that emerged, with science being broken down in some places in the world and universities in general. So we were certainly faced with a lot of problems in terms of research funding alone. So the whole way that I learned to think and reflect on my leadership and what I need to do in the organization really at Oxford really helped me in realizing that with every crisis comes an opportunity. So I had to apply a lot of the strategic realignment stuff that Jonathan Trevor spoke about. Obviously, also the power of doubt, because you doubt your abilities sometimes to fix all of these problems, and then you realize, look, you need to take your team with you. So I think without that Oxford autumn 2024 experience, I would have been struggling a lot more in 2025 in my job. It's helped me immensely in terms of being centered and calm. And I think this is one of the things that the whole outlook of the course was so valuable in having meditation sessions and really speaking about the human factor in all of this. So yeah, I couldn't have had a better timing and a better preparation, I think, for this somewhat chaotic and volatile 2025 that we had.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. It seems almost serendipitous that you end up going on the program, and then that's what you face with going back home. Just to remind everyone who's on the call, we will have time for Q&A. So, well, questions you might have for the panelists, to be specific. So do drop your questions in the chat, and then when we get to the Q&A, we'll read them out and get our panelists to respond to your questions. Patricia, let's go to the next question. Yeah, leave that one up. I'll come to that one, but there's a question I want to discuss before we get to that. Nebahat, this idea, we're leaders who come on this program, senior leaders come on this program. So the idea of making ourselves vulnerable, in the way you describe, working in these peer groups and these learning groups and discussing your life and your work and your fears and your excitements with others. I must admit that makes me feel sort of nervous. Right? How did you respond, and how do people get the best out of this experience of, at first, in many ways, making ourselves vulnerable, and then learning from that experience?
That's a very good question, Athol. I think it starts with self-awareness, right? I would say I talk easily, I connect easily. I would call myself a social person. I like people, and I share easily. Maybe also the Dutch openness and directness. You can talk with me about everything. But is that actually true? Because I think also, and there Oxford also played a role. Yes, but maybe sometimes rather superficially, right? So I may appear very open, but not really. So I think something happened there through, that self-awareness, also knowing what I was holding back, especially in the beginning, before feeling the safety, and then the curiosity. So I've kind of forced myself to be curious about the others and how they were experiencing, etc. So asking questions and helping others to open up, help myself to open up and go to the levels where I really needed to be to take the most out of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Nebahat. Joseph, from your perspective, your part of the world, and I must be careful not to use stereotypes. My knowledge of your part of the world, and if we take the male stereotype, this idea of huddling around and sharing our feelings, how did you deal with that?
You know, I'm Austrian. We're in the middle between Germany and Italy, so two extremes.
Yes.
No, no, no. Of course, I think the greatest thing here is following up what Nebahat said is usually you are used or you expected to be the smartest guy in the room. That's why you have the big paycheck. This is why you have the C-level suite and so on. But all of us are dealing with the same insecurities and incompetences and so on and so on. So just because you got the big corner office, it doesn't mean automatically that you have all the answers. And so, especially as a young leader, the toughest thing to say is, I don't know. So that's it's so much easier to give answers than confessing I don't know, which means a lot of personal development to reach this. And so being confronted with much more mature and experienced leaders during the advanced management program, I learned to say, I don't know. So I think when we consider the experience, there are two planes of learning. The one thing is leadership and management, like anything, is a craft. So applying all this marketing and financial stuff and negotiations makes you better in your craftsmanship. And I became a better manager and leader afterwards. The other thing is you grow as a person, and as a person you grow when you are aware of your own limitations and those things you do not know. And I remember vibrant we did this leadership journey of Henry V. So, and all of us experiences those dark nights where before we enter war and so on. And I think this is the learning experience where, of course, you have to expose yourself in terms of vulnerability, in terms of your competence, but also your character and so on.
Yeah.
But you have to get into this if you want to get the most out of the program, I would say.
Yeah. It's exactly. Well, we will see the questions will start coming in, but perhaps from each of you, as we close or draw the discussion to a close, what advice would you offer anyone considering the program in one or two sentences? And Trina, why don't we start with you?
I think Nebahat said it. Immerse yourself. Go with an open mind. I would say expect the unexpected. I learned many things about myself that I did not know. So that would be my best advice. Make sure that you can free up your time, whether you do the hybrid version or the residential version. Make sure that you can free up your time to make absolutely the most of it.
Great. Thanks, Trina. Joseph, how about you?
I would fully agree with Terina in terms of enter with an open mind, and I would enter to that, but come with a clear purpose. So understand there's a lot of learn in the world, a lot of things you do not know now, as if nobody's telling you that. But come with a clear purpose, what you want to learn, where you want to grow, and keep the mind open because you will be surprised what else is out there in the world.
Fantastic. Nebahat, how about you? What advice would you offer?
Yeah, so maybe a couple of things here. One thing that I would probably do differently is take more advantage of Athol and Sally and all the other lecturers of Oxford who are at your service. You know, and you guys say that in the very beginning, right? It's not just the lectures, it's just you're there for 3 weeks, and you have mentioned this a couple of times. You know, all of Oxford is available for whatever your needs are. Now you hear that, but it's only afterwards that I thought, have I really benefited from all the offers outside of the formal program? So that was one thing. Connected to it is the residential program for sure, and I'm sure the hybrid one as well. It's a very busy, very intense program. You know, you go to deep layers inside yourself, your team, your business. Try not to fully book your free time for things that are also equally busy. In the evenings, the weekends, etc. Probably also something I would do differently because I felt like I did not really have the time to stop absorb, reflect. There's some reflection time built in the program, but it's so much. It's just, it's a wealth of skills, information, knowledge that's thrown at you. So try to also build in that time for yourself, and do the mindfulness and the physical exercise with a personal trainer, whichever is your thing, if at all possible, all of them, because the energizing part for me was also like, yeah, this needs to be a change in my life where it's not just my head that's working all the time and I'm exhausted, but it adds energy if you do and build in the exercise in your daily life.
Yeah, I laughed, never had, because I guess we all, I mean, I've been at Oxford for so many years now. I still feel I don't get everything out of the place. There's such a richness to Oxford. And I guess linking to what Tarina and what Joseph said, there is also a leadership discipline about focus, I guess, right? And so I would think the more you come with a clearer purpose, the more you perhaps can know which of those things at Oxford take advantage of. So we definitely don't have the time to do everything. But I loved seeing how people began spending their spare time networking with others to pursue business deals. Some people, actually did research and then went visited companies while they were here on the weekend because they thought those are places they wanted to invest in. And so I agree with what you all have said. It's about being clear on why you come, and then design your spare time and even the program around what you want to get out of it. Because we create a space for you, but really it's for you to take out of it what you want. Absolutely. I'm looking at the Q&A, and I think Patricia's handled most of the questions. So let me see. It looks like I think your answers have been so comprehensive that no one has got a direct question for you. Let's just see. If you are on the program and on the webinar and want to ask a question directly, here's one direct question. Great. So this is for Joseph. How do you think the program has changed and adapted to changing circumstances? I don't know how Joseph's going to answer that. And challenges since you've completed the program. Joseph, do you have a view? Do you have a view of how the program's changed?
Oh, there's definitely now a hybrid program on the market. That's an obvious change in terms of the real contents. I cannot really tell. I've been code of June 2014. What I guess is that the main pillars of the program are still similar. Also in the previous discussions with Irina and Nebahat and Sally and so on. So it's about to craft leaders and help them to nourish. So I guess one of these issues where change happening is the actual content in terms of in 2014, nobody talked about things like artificial intelligence. And I guess now it's the main driver of the whole thing, how to deal with it. In terms of if we talk about global turmoil, the geopolitical questions back in 2014, remember Russia has just annexed the Crimea, were different ones than we are talking about today. In terms of what I guess where the program, and you asked me about diversity before, can still be very helpful, is that a global approach to business and to society is a valid one, and so to have an open view on that. And I guess this is also still something the program is promoting and enabling. So I think the philosophy, or my expectation would be, it is still on this thin red line in terms of Oxford culture to build leaders who are sustainable, who are socially responsible, and who act at the highest level of craftsmanship.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, like I said in the beginning, it is designed around leaders who are serious about, personal and professional success, but also having impact in their organizations and having the organizations have positive impact in the world. And so I think all of those elements have to be there, and our program certainly tries to get that out. I see a question from Jenny saying the program seems highly corporate focused. are there public sector and NGO leaders included? Jenny, thanks for your question. We've got Tarina here, who is a senior executive at a university, which is a public sector university in South Africa. So absolutely, we have people from NGOs, we have people from government. We had a governor of a state on one of the recent cohorts. So it's open to business, corporate business people, as well as NGOs and public sector, absolutely.
Athol, could I just take the question? I haven't got a percentage of people who are promoted after finishing the program. I'm sure Patricia's got some longitudinal study or stats on that. I just want to sort of say, just since October, one of the most satisfying things is on our WhatsApp group when we hear about somebody who's got promotion, one of our Japanese, lovely man who really, he'd struggled a little bit at first with his English, but worked really hard, and the group were brilliant. And he got promoted when he got back from vice president to executive vice president. And just his pride and joy, and the group's pride and joy, never had you remember that, the eruption of that. And the stories that we hear of people being recognised at the government, at a government minister level, or achieving buying another business, or the stories. So anecdotally, it's had a huge impact. Of course, can we say can we claim causality? No, of course not.
Yeah.
Never dream of doing that. But just hearing that what people is either giving the people the confidence to go for something that they wouldn't have done before, or to achieve and just reach that little bit further. And it's so lovely. I mean, that's why we do it. That's why we do this work.
Yeah.
Have that impact.
And Sally, let me add to that, because yeah, I mean, that is very rewarding to see indeed colleagues or peers move to places, etc. So if you're after a promotion, definitely this will help you, I believe. But the other element is this program also offers you a lot of, I would say, resources to think about, am I in the right place personally? Am I in the right sector? Do I have the right job? Is it time to move on? And I felt a bit shy of making this about me, first, because I'm here for a cause and energy security in my company and just powering Europe and the war and all these like big, mighty things. And then, but you get individual coaching, right? So I had to get over this, like, no, this can be about me, about my next step in my career. And well, Athol knows, I mean, the one thing I took away from the whole program stays with me, and I use it almost on a daily basis, this whole longevity thinking. Like, no, I'm not nearing my pension age like we were wired to think, or are wired to think in this part of the world, in Europe. I'm not even peaking yet. So this is Q3, this is Q4 coming. And this whole thinking of, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And, I love my job. The job loves me. But yeah, so that's perfectly okay, to also make it pretty personal.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Nebad. That's a very important point. And I think also a lot of what all three of you said and what is important to us at Oxford is, again, not giving you the answers. Your senior leaders coming here, and the way Oxford engages in learning is to pose the questions, guided questions. It's about the critical thinking. It's about how you think about the question rather than necessarily what the answer is. And so you will keep asking those questions, and the questions get more or less complex. But our hope with the program and what you can expect on the program is to feel equipped to deal with those questions, whether it's been a few months ago, as in Eberhard, a year and a bit in terms of Tarina, or more than a decade in terms of, in Joseph's case, is to have equipped you to deal with that. Well, it's really sad that we've run out of time, and I know we could all continue this conversation much longer. So I really want to thank Joseph, Tarina, and Eberhard for your time and your openness to engage with us on these questions. And we're really proud to have you as alumni of the program. And with that, I'll have to hand back to Patricia, who will just close out with a few items.
Thank you so much, Athol, and thank you so much to our panelists. Athol or Louise, I would like to, before we finish with our next steps, there is a great question that hasn't been answered about the blended model, how we will create the same environment as the more 3-week intense residential program. So if any of you would like to sort of answer on that or
Yeah,
have a
it's
comment.
Louise, how about you?
I'm very happy to. So, the blended will combine the immersive experience of the 3-week program with a blended delivery too. So, what we're really aspiring to do is offer the best of both worlds, so that you have a really fantastic Oxford experience where you're working, as people have so beautifully described, with people in person in that wonderful Oxford environment, and really getting to know each other very deeply and benefiting from the learning experience there, combined with some virtual delivery, so that will be an opportunity to have an extended learning experience and to experiment, put things into practice, come back together in small groups and with the larger group to share and explore how that application is going, and then coming back again for another immersive residential week after that. So our aspiration is that it's going to be very, very similar in terms of learning objectives to the 3-week in-person program, but there'll be this flexibility that will enable certain people who can't give 3 weeks out of their working lives to still have the benefits of that in-person experience, but also the flexibility of that extended virtual delivery as well. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much, Louise, and thank you, everyone. As next steps before we close, here you have the information. If this inspired you to complete your application for our next OAMLP cohort in 2026, here you have our QR code. You can scan to start the application, and the deadline for our first blended cohort is actually this Friday. So you can complete that quickly before Friday to join our first ever blended version of the program. And if residential is more for you, we are taking applications for our June cohort and also autumn cohort. If you're unsure which version is for you or if this program is the right one for you, I saw some unanswered questions. We're very happy to connect with you. Please, you can scan our QR codes to connect on LinkedIn. You've got our faculty contact details here and also our recruitment team working on OAMLP recruitment, myself and my colleague Neus and Charlotte. We will be delighted to have a one-to-one consultation with you to answer any questions that have been unanswered during the webinar. And also you can connect with our alumni. They're very experienced. You have seen their great comments and they are very happy to connect with anyone considering the program, being able to support them further. So you can connect with Tarina, Joseph and Neverhat here. And that's all for now. It's been a fantastic session. Thank you for everyone who contributed. And we hope to see you and hearing from you and see you here in Oxford in 2026. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.